Hey everyone, Greg Mescall here with you. Brand new episode of the Counterattack right here on Overnight. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great show ahead. We'll talk with Tom Davis, the commissioner of the National League. Week 3 is coming up in Southern California. A lot of big news. How about Dennis Varga, the legend, coming out of retirement to cap up with LA Athletic Club at the National League Championship? That'll be at the end of April at Mount Sac. Cannot wait for that big event. Plus CIF regional action, girls high school water polo, the champions announced in Division 1, 2, and 3. And of course, a busy weekend in college water polo. We'll get you all caught up on all the big news and look ahead to a lot of exciting things on the way. First, though, some highlights. Let's jump into it. UCLA, Fresno State out to Westwood we go. Bruins getting ready. The defending NCAA champs, Natalie Benson, the Bruin grad, making her way back to Westwood. Early on, it is all UCLA. Ava Stryker cruising in and does not miss from there. Stryker measures twice, cuts once, cross cage, and that works. And then the Bruins back on the attack here. Shot clock ticking down a bit along 2 meters. Undaunted, they're able to jam that in. Tight quarters, no problem. UCLA continuing to go to Anna Pearson, a veteran, put her on the post. So tough. Look at all the traffic. Pearson, didn't matter. Fresno State, they've come to play. A team that has only gotten better and better, one of the relatively new programs in the college water polo scene over the last 10 years, and they have quickly become an NCAA tourney team. We go back to the Bruins. Bia, not a lot of Diaz, the UH transfer. Look at her split the defense, ball control. When you've got someone like Bia in the middle, put it back in there, and she will quickly catch, calling for that ball. Hit her on the hand and convert. Fresno State, Mossman showing off her 2-meter game. Does not delay. This is good stuff. Quick step out, ditch the defender, turn and fire. And then if you've watched Fresno State water polo over the last few years, you know the name Ochoa. Firing from the outside, up on the legs. This is the Ochoa highlight reel right here. Now a little drive near side. Tuck that in around the keeper. No problem there. And then you know where this is going. Calling for the rock there and near side low. And the Bruins will put a bow on this one from the outside. They go on to win it 24-11. Now we go Bay Area, Cal, San Jose State Bears making the trip across the bridge on down to Silicon Valley. And Nina Flynn, such a dynamic score, makes it 1-0. Spartans, don't mind the scoreboard. Spartans are down. They haven't scored yet. They have now. That's Bridget Cranley getting inside. One of the big ads for Cal this year, Miriam Bogachenko, catch and release. That will be a familiar sight this season. Bears up 5-1. Holly Dunn cruising in, make it 6-1. And the Bears and Corley Simmons squad, they made a statement here in the first quarter over there at San Jose State. That is Lindsay Harrison close capping a dynamic opening period, 7-2. Now on to the second, more of the same. Nina Flynn, just like she started the first quarter, opening goal here in the second quarter. San Jose State now, can they try and battle back, move that ball well, and score it for Rose Jensen to get the Spartans a little energy? But Bogachenko, again, just a sniper, takes a quick peek, sheds the defender, and drills it. Back and forth we go here. That made it 9-3. San Jose State looking for Renee Fleming, showing off the range just inside 6 meters. Third quarter action now. Cal Bears, it's done. How about the defender, the keeper, all there near side? Did not matter as Dunn's able to hit. And now Ruby Swadling steps up and converts. It's been such a good veteran presence for this Cal team. San Jose State, they go back to Jensen, able to hit, but just too much Cal on this day. They win it 18-11, and they can head back across the bay with the victory. So a big win there for the Bears, despite some pretty work from San Jose State. Now let's talk college water polo scores and look around at some other results ahead of another big weekend here in the college game. Augustana over Occidental, 9-7 in overtime. East Coast Brown edging Wagner, 13-12 in OT. Fullerton over Biola, 12-11. That was in golden goal overtime. And then how about Caltech getting the win over UC Merced? And now we shift gears to high school water polo. CIF state regional action in Southern California girls water polo. Big congrats to the champions. Division 1, it goes to Orange Lutheran. Division 2, the Claremont Chieftains. And Division 3 out of San Diego, Cathedral Catholic. Again, a big congrats to the champs. Let's hear from some of the winners.
I mean, I'm just super stoked. Our team did so good. We've always had Modern Day on our mind. And, you know, like these last few practices, we've just been having fun, kind of just thinking about the past we've had with our 2 championships at CIF and how we're really just going to bounce back from our loss in the semifinal game against Newport. And, you know, this team is just so loving, kind. Like, everybody is just so supportive of each other. It's such a great vibe at Orange Lutheran. And I would recommend the school to anyone. It's just, everybody's just so sweet.
I'm super stoked about how we can all come together as a team and really make a stop. We did a good job identifying who we needed to shut down, and I think we did a great job of executing that plan.
This Cathedral team will keep us united forever, I can assure of it. I know that none of us will ever lose touch, and just this bond that we've created. I know it's only been 3 months, but I feel like I've known these girls my whole life, and I am so incredibly blessed for that, and I will treasure these friendships forever.
And now let's talk our big conversation here on the counterattack. We've got the National League Commissioner, Tom Davis. Before we talk to Tom, don't forget, every single National League game is right here on Overnight Live and on demand. More Week 3 action coming up this weekend. 2 pools, free admission. Get out there and watch. And if you can't, you can join us right here on Overnight. Let's hear more about what Tom had to say on a big year for the NL. And now we welcome in the Commissioner of the National League, Tom Davis, joining us. Tom, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Greg. Really appreciate it.
Busy times. We're talking here leading into Week 3. I know this has been a Herculean task to organize the National League. It's much expanded from a year ago, but the excitement feels palpable as we're kind of at the midway point of the regular year. Just want to check in with you, and how do you feel about National League 2025 thus far?
I mean, you know, it's, as you know, it's hard being on the inside of this. You have sometimes a little bit of a different feeling than those on the outside. I'm just using the feedback that we're getting from the teams and the players as kind of our beacon for whether or not we're doing a good job. And by and large, the feedback has been tremendous. It seems like everybody's having a great time this year. We have more bodies in the stands than I think we've had in years past. The live stream numbers are through the roof. Our partners at Overnight are just doing a spectacular job with that. The streams are spectacular. Commentary is very good. So we couldn't be happier with the product that we're putting out. And we feel like there's just a buzz about it this year. At least that's what we're hearing out there.
It sure seems to be that way. And obviously major props to some of the clubs that are involved. One of the exciting things that's happened, I think, over the last couple of years, you have a few clubs in LAAC and Channel Cats come to mind that have really taken an interest in trying to take this to the next level, to try and get more eyeballs and more attention. And that excitement has really seemed to pay off, as you alluded to. It just seems like there's a lot more engagement across the board.
Yeah, I mean, it's really nice when the clubs take ownership of the product. And that's what you're seeing in a lot of ways. I mean, we have, kind of clubs that have been pillars of this league since the beginning, like your O Club and NIAC. And they're always focused on putting a good product in the water and really performing at a very, very high level. And then you have other clubs like LAAC and Channel Cats on the men's side that are really, I mean, they've stepped their game up tremendous this year. The level of competition that they've created across the board, the amount of effort that they've put into promoting and marketing their teams, it's really second to none. And then you add a lot of these other clubs like Mission that's made up primarily of college players or Trojan, and they're bringing also, like a young vibrance to this league that we have not seen in years past.
Yeah, we tried to make that point when we're sharing highlights on the show each week. Hey, if you're watching Mission, for example, you're going to recognize a lot of guys from UCLA or NL Trojan, maybe from USC, and some folks are more familiar than others. Right there are certain NCAA governance rules around how teams can be rostered, the number of play dates, right? And so that's why you might see some of your favorite players playing for other clubs. But at the end of the day, it's a great thing for fans. It's talent in the pool. And so you just hit on it. If you love water polo and you love elite water polo, you're going to get a chance to see veterans that have national team experience, that have played abroad, going up against the rising stars, to see a guy like Ryder Dodd competing, right, coming off of a bronze medal. There's not a better place to watch high level water polo in the U.S. right now by far. When you're talking about the men's game, it's no disrespect to women's college season, but for men's water polo right now, the NL is the spot.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. And, one of the things that's been really fun to see is a lot of these teams are adding youth level players, right? Players that are like at the U18 level. And there's really no other, league in the world or in any sport here in the US where you can, as a high school athlete, play on a club against, some of your idols that just got done winning medals in Olympics, right? Or guys that are former pro players. I mean, it's really unique in that it's selling the dream of what our sport can become to a whole nother generation of athletes.
I say this all the time about water polo, and often it's about hyping up playing at Masters Nationals because you'll get,
Mhm.
retired Ryan Bailey, right? Still playing 2 meter,
Yeah.
for example. But you hit on it. We all want the sport to grow and to become bigger. But one of the charming things about water polo at the size it is right now is exactly what you hit on. You could play basketball at a fairly high level, even, and stop playing and want to play recreationally as an adult. You're not getting in the league with Anthony Edwards or LeBron James or Steph Curry. It's just not happening. But in the US, in water polo, that happens regularly. You have this opportunity to play with these athletes. And then from the fan experience, you have this chance to be around these people on a regular basis. It really is a must see opportunity if you enjoy the game.
Yeah, no, it is. And that's evident by kind of the fan draws that we've been getting at some of these. I think it's really intriguing when you have a team like Mission that is primarily, a lot of UCLA players, but they're also tied to the Mission Club, right? Which is very similar to the model that we have in European water polo and a lot of European sports, right? Where you have youth through professional all within the same club. And it was kind of fun to see one of our games of the weeks last week where we had Trojan versus Mission, and you had probably 50 families with their kids out there from that club supporting that team. And it just gives you a glimpse of what the sport could grow to, on a professional or semi-professional level here in this country.
Yeah, you're exactly right. That is one of the challenges is to make that connection from age group all the way up to the top. You think about the clubs you mentioned earlier on, the veteran clubs like a New York Athletic Club, Olympic Club, as tremendous as they have been, they don't win Junior Olympics. They don't place a
Right.
Champions Cup, right? They don't have that age group infrastructure. And then conversely, you could look at the clubs that have won JOs or other events time and again, a SoCal, San Diego Shores, a Santa Barbara 805, right? There's not that presence at that premier level, if you will. And so it's exciting to see what's transpiring with the National League. And hopefully that means there's only more of this to come in the future. And I know you've had a huge hand in this to try to make all of this go. What's been the most rewarding thing thus far? I know you're in the weeds on it now, so I'm trying to draw some of the good vibes out. What's some of the most rewarding things that you've been able to experience here in this season?
I think just seeing, how serious all of the teams are taking this league, what it means to these teams this year, seems to be something a little different than what it's meant in years past. And not that it was, not that there was anything wrong with what it was in years past, but there's a level of focus and professionalism across all of the teams that, I was involved in years past as a coach that I have not seen. And to me, that just is a testament to where we can go when everybody's focused on putting a quality product out there and really looking at improving their team and growing the sport. I think that that's probably the most exciting thing for me.
Yeah, those are some of the critical pieces, and it sounds obvious, right? But coming to it with a professional, serious attitude doesn't mean you're not having fun, right? But roster submission, right people showing up, caps, all that sort of stuff. It's critical to
Yeah.
try and grow this the way that it has the potential to grow. The huge news over the last week: Dennis Varga signing on with LA Athletic Club. I'm trying to think of something unexpected like that has generated such interest in the water polo community. If you talked about just Instagram likes and comments, well, we've had some teams at USA Water Polo win Olympic gold medals or guys win NCAA championships. So there's been that sort of reaction, but I can't remember one where it was like, whoa, nobody saw this coming. And
Yeah.
now one of the biggest names in the sport is going to come to the US and compete. How did this come together? What do you know
Yeah.
about the addition of Varga to
Sure.
LAAC that you can share?
Well, I can tell you they are. LA is at the top in terms of, or toward the top, one of the top three, I'd say, in terms of the focus on improving their roster consistently. And, I know that they have been in talks with Dennis for a long time, since before I was even involved in this league. I know Dennis through a mutual friend. When I became commissioner of the league, we had talked about the league in general, and it seemed like at that time it probably wasn't going to work for his needs to come over and be a part of this with any team. After weekend one, my understanding is his interest was reignited in being here. And I think he ended up reaching back out to them and just seeing if they could figure out how to make it work for at least one weekend. And I'll be honest, as commissioner of the league, I am very thankful that they were able to figure this out, because I think, to me, this is very akin to getting David Beckham to the MLS back in the beginning, or Messi to Miami. It's that type of news, but for our sport. And, all the credit really has to go to the guys at LA for figuring out how to make this work. They just did a phenomenal job. And I like to think that, what we've built the league into this year gave them kind of the step stool to be able to take that next step.
And just to give people a heads up, right, the plan is for Varga to compete at the championship at the end of April. I know some folks saw that graphic and said, week 3, here we go, right? But just so we set proper expectations, his plan is to attend for the championships, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. He'll be here just for the championships. And it's amazing how many people, I've heard from that hadn't even been to a game this year, probably 20, and they're like, we're coming to that. We'll be there for that. So it really is must-watch water polo.
Yeah, and excited to see it. It's going to be right here live on Overnight, obviously. Do you think, and I'm not sure if anyone has started to reach out to anybody, but does a guy like that playing, does that pique the interest of perhaps some retired USA legends, some other European club guys? Have you heard anything? Not to just throw unfounded rumors out there, but anything else potentially in the works?
No, I haven't heard of anything. It doesn't mean that there's not something out there. I didn't hear about this until the 11th hour anyway. So, I'm hopeful that there's something else. I think it's, really compelling if we can get some other storylines like this out there. I'm sure, the NIAC guys, I'm sure are out there working it. They are also toward the top in terms of building solid rosters. Scott Schulte does an amazing job with that group. If there's, anyone out there who can bring someone in, I know it would be him for sure. I think the Channel Cats could be on the prowl as well, and, calling up an Olympic club also. So it wouldn't surprise me if we saw more of this. Not that I have any inkling that that's happening, but certainly would love to see some other people join the league.
Well, what are some things you're looking forward to? We've got week 3 and week 4, obviously, over the next couple of weeks, and then a little bit of a break there before the championship at the end of April. What are some of the things you're excited about over the remainder of the regular season?
Yeah, we have, our games of the week this week are going to be pretty phenomenal. We're going to have an earlier game of the week and a later game of the week on Saturday. Nyack versus Trojan is going to be spectacular. That's going to be a very, very good game. And then we have LA versus Anteater as our evening game at Willett on Saturday. That's also going to be a really good game. The boys at Anteater are playing very, very well. They've had some near misses with some of the top teams, and I know that they are looking for a win against LA. LA has been, they've had a very good run on the other side of the bracket. It's going to be fun to see some of these non-conference games, matchups that we haven't seen so far, and just see how things play out.
Exciting stuff. And you hit on it a bit around kind of bridging clubs from age group to this premier level. But looking down the road, 2026 and beyond, what are some other things you'd love to see come together when it comes to the National League?
Yeah. I think one of the things that's intriguing to me is from a media point of view, and this is more in your lane than mine, but, if we could get some of the behind the scenes stories of some of these players. What are some of what's the daily life like? What's the training like for these guys? What are they doing during the week? I think that there's some compelling storylines there that, we as the general public don't get to see what these guys go through. And I think that that's really interesting. I also wouldn't be surprised to see, more sponsors want to get involved with this. I think we're just at the infancy of what this could be. And I think that, getting more sponsors involved, getting people to support the league in a meaningful way is going to be huge for its growth.
That's a great point. There is no current partner associated with the National League from a naming rights standpoint. You think about other leagues that you might like around the globe and other sports. They often have a naming rights deal attached to them. So that's something we can try and put out in the universe and try and make happen here in the coming years. And then you're right. I think some people realize this, but about National League athletes, the athlete that is still in college has a experience that people are probably very familiar with. But then there are some folks that they don't get to be in the pool every single day. They have classic 9 to 5 jobs. They're doing this because they absolutely love water polo. And so it'd be kind of fun too to maybe follow someone to the office and then the pool and then out to National
Yeah.
League competition.
Yeah, I think the more that we can tell the story of our participants, the more the sport's going to grow on. Humanizing the events, I think is really going to be a compelling thing. I also think it would be really intriguing to see if we can get someone to put some prize money up for this thing. I think that you might see another big jump if we do that, and maybe that ties into the league naming rights like you discussed. I just think there's a lot of upside and a lot of opportunity for us.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's an amazing season thus far. We're super excited for what is ahead, and I think you hit a lot of good ideas. And we told you at the top that Tom's the commissioner. If you're familiar with commissioners of other sports, his salary is slightly below that of the NFL and NBA. So, hats off to you for a lot of hard work. This is seriously, you put in a lot of time. It is clearly a thing that you're passionate about, and it goes noticed. So appreciate everything that you're doing for water polo here in the United States.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it, Greg.
Big thanks to Tom Davis for joining us this week on the show. Don't forget live coverage of the National League Week 3 all this weekend right here on overnight.com. Now time for our Malmston goal of the week, another big time highlight brought to you from our friends at Malmston.
4 seconds. He'll pass it into his center. Last second shot is good. Does get a goal to go. It's finally Garrett Potter gets the goal. You see his cap is off. Potter gets the goal to go right with 2 seconds left to go, as it will be the 3rd goal of the game for Riptide.
Again, if you've got a great highlight, an awesome goal, send it in. Send us a DM, tag us at Overnight or at USAWP. We'll be looking for some of your big highlights to share. Now let's look ahead at what's coming up. First, what's ahead on Overnight? Well, we just mentioned it. Week 3 of the National League. That's coming up real quick. And before we finish the regular season, one more week of play. Week 4 at the end of March. All of that available right here on Overnight. In addition to so many great college water polo matches. We're in the thick of women's season, so make sure to go to overnight.com or download the app to see what games are coming up that you might want to watch. And then other USA water polo events that are on the way. Both ODP National Championships are coming up. The boys will be in the Bay Area in Tri-Valley, California, and then the girls competition out in Salt Lake City, Utah. More information on those events, including all the other upcoming USA Water Polo events at usawaterpolo.org. That's going to do it for this week's show. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be right back here next week. And don't forget, when you're on the counterattack, look weak side.